Hi, good day everyone. Morelli here, and today I'm gonna show you guys a Calyrex Shadow Rider team. So, as I discussed in my previous video, we have a Calyrex Shadow Rider with Substitute plus Leech Seed, and I'm going to be supporting that with Arcanine and Hippowdon, both of which are pretty good against a lot of physical attackers. Azumarill and Mimikyu are pretty good at taking advantage of special walls, mainly Tyranitar, but also Chansey as well. Zapdos doesn't really have a particular role, but it's a pretty good lead, able to get the fast Volt Switch out on a lot of things. It's also one of my better leads against Kyogre, which is a big problem for me for sure. And it also is still, even with the Scarf, it threatens a lot of damage with the Airstream. And Pressure is my opponent's team preview, most importantly. So it's just a good Pokemon doing Zapdos things. And now let's get into the games. So this is a pretty interesting team with the Zacian. He has the screen support with Grimmsnarl, which lets him help set up both the Zacian and the Ice Cube. But he doesn't really have too much counterplay against the the Calyrex, aside from the Grimmsnarl, which if he brings it, odds are he will probably bring it early. So I want to bring Azu as a lead, which has a great matchup across the board. And Arcanine is going to make sure that I'm not going to lose to Zacian setting up on me, and Calyrex is going to be able to sweep him out. So the thing here is, even if Arcanine were to go down or not be able to 1v1 the Zacian because of screens, it will eventually still do enough damage for the Calyrex to pick off the Zacian and finish off the game there. So yep, let's get into the game. My opponent leads with the Ice Cube, which is an interesting pick. Not certainly something you see in the lead position. So, but I don't want to let him get a free belly drum or anything silly like that. So I'm just gonna go for the liquidation. It's not gonna do any damage. It's just gonna break its ability, Ice Face ability. But it could potentially get a defense drop, so that's better than Play Rough, which could possibly miss. And he goes for the Freeze Dry, an interesting play for sure. I am not too high on the ladder. I've just started laddering this season, so maybe he doesn't really know much about Ice Cube, but yeah, I'm gonna take nothing from the Freeze Dry because Ice Cube has a pretty low special attack. Now, I could go for just about anything here. I could go for Liquidation. I could go for the Superpower, which would be super effective. But Liquidation is going to hit just about everything neutrally, which is nice. Except for the Finny, which really can't beat Azu 1v1. So he does bring the Grimmsnarl here. And that is going to do half. So if I got the Predict with the Play Rough, that would have been nice, but I'm just going to go for the Play Rough here, and that is going to KO him through the Reflect if he opts for it. And the reason why I go for the Play Rough KO immediately is that usually you want to try to stall out the screen turns against the Grimmsnarl, as opposed to kind of KOing it right through as it sets up the screen. But here he doesn't even go for the Reflect, but if he went for the Reflect, that means that he wasn't going to be able to set up the light screen, and that means that Calyrex would have an easy time KOing the Zacian. So it works out for him, actually. The fact that he went for the light screen actually I would say that was a very heads-up play by him. But I'm just gonna go back into the Arcanine, which should beat the Zacian 1v1, especially because I am physical Arcanine, as you can see with the Flare Blood. So that means that his light screen not going to affect my Zacian, my Arcanine, and my Arcanine my dog gonna beat his dog. I did take nothing from the Behemoth Blade with the Resist and the Intimidate. Do enough chip damage on the Zacian, and that helmet damage is going to make sure that even against especially defensive bulky Zacian, I'm just gonna be able to KO it with my Calyrex, but probably he's just judging by his team. I don't think he's probably some kind of like a very bulky invested type of Zacian. I don't want to make any unnecessary assumptions though, but I think I pretty much have this in the bag. I'm just gonna Dynamax here with the Max Flare. That should KO the Zacian. Not gonna take any much damage from the close combat or whatever else he has. And that is going to also cover the switch into Ice Cube if he were to go for that. And he opts to just stay in and sack the Zacian, goes for the Psychic Fang, does negligible damage at best. And I'm just gonna KO this thing straight up with the Flare Blitz, especially after 2 rounds of Rocky Helmet. Has no chance of surviving. And I'm gonna set the Sun as well, so he might have the Head Smash for the Rock move. If he has that, could be probably gonna do quite a chunk to this Arcanine, but if he's the Water move, that's not gonna do anything. So I'll just go for the Max Flare again. If he were to be the Water move, then that would mean that I'll be able to take, be able to have the damage from the Water move, and also on the next turn, you can set the Sun back up again for the next turn for his second Water move to also do minimal damage. And that way I'll be able to kind of stall out as many of his Dynamax turns as possible. And after that, Azu Calyrex can just win the game from there. Yeah. So I guess the only main concern here would be that the light screen makes it difficult for me to KO this thing. But yeah, but it's not gonna take enough from the Water move, Max Geyser. And I get a crit, which means that I don't think that crit mattered at all, but that is big damage for Rain Half Max Flare. Well, I'm just gonna go for the Steel Spike here, which will not get reduced by this Rain, but he will forfeit here. Good game. I don't think he had much of a doubt after his Zacian went down. And I'm gonna take this first game, first win here. My second game here is against Josh, and I see that he has a Zacian team. He has a couple of other threatening Pokemon. I want to bring Arcanine, but the big problem here is the Suicune, I would say. Suicune is a big threat to me trying to bring Arcanine. It's going to be able to set up all over it. So I'm going to have to cover its back with the Azumarill. Azu gonna take very little damage from the Suicune, and I am definitely risking a Scald Burn with this setup, but I'm going to be doing a lot of damage with the Play Rough, and if it comes to that, I could just go for the Max Starfall to cover that if necessary. But I'm not gonna go for it right away because of the Venusaur possibility, but yeah, I'm gonna bring Arcanine for the Zacian, Azu for the Suicune, and Calyrex is going to be a big threat offensively to everything he's got. And I would think definitely one Pokemon that I have issues against here with this pick of 3 is definitely the Venusaur actually. It is a pretty low-key threat, but if it gets a free switch onto the Azumarill, it could do quite a bit of damage. So I lead with the Calyrex here. Not only does it not let Venusaur get a free potential turn 1, it also means that it just about pressures everything else on his team very well as well. So if only thing that probably has a chance to beat this 1v1 is his Zacian. Zacian can Eevee to survive this Max Phantasm always. And for that reason, it's very silly for me to stay in. It's a very high risk play for a very minimal reward. And for that, I will just go right out into my Arcanine, which is a very low risk play. And I'm just going to be able to get a free Will-O-Wisp off. So this Wisp is pretty important because I'm not gonna Max Flare into a potential Suicune. That could totally lose me the game. But for example, let's say he goes for the close combat and he 2-hit KOs me even with the burn. But that means that he's gonna take a lot of damage and put himself into my Calyrex range. And as I suspected, he definitely goes into the Suicune. And if he, for example, here, this is an opportunity for me to gain information about the team. So if he were to have switched in anything other than Suicune, then I could play knowing that potentially he probably didn't have a good Arcanine switch in. But he does have his Suicune, as I suspected. And I'm going to take this opportunity to go right out into my Azumarill. And he isn't even going to go for a Scald onto my Azu. He's going to go for the Calm Mind, which is fair because I did reveal my Calyrex, which is going to be a special attacker. And if I had Zapdos as my sequence check, then this Calm Mind would really put a damper on my damage. But I am going to bring in my Azu as my sequence check, so this Play Rough is going to do a ton. Suicune is not going to be able to do too much damage here. So I'm just gonna keep going for the Play Roughs. If I miss, then so be it. If he Dynamaxes, actually probably a really good trade for me. He goes for the Air Slash here, which is mainly used for the Airstream. And it's a good play by him to fish for the flinch. He does not get it though. And I get away scot-free with a full health Azumarill. And now I'm in a really good position with the Arcanine now that the Suicune went down. He brings in the Cloyster as well. But Cloyster loses to Azu 1v1 with the Superpower plus Aqua Jet combo. So maybe he could have gone for a Rock Blast for some damage as opposed to none, but I am just gonna happily take the Superpower against the -1 Cloyster. So he does reveal the Focus Sash, as most Cloyster are Focus Sash. Some are King's Rock though, so if he were King's Rock and got a bunch of Rock Blast flinches, that could have been really annoying, but other than that, I'm just gonna get the safe Aqua Jet off, and this is gonna be a pretty locked up win for me here. I'm gonna go straight out into the Arcanine. I am at -1 attack, remember. So what that means is that if I stay in too much, I could potentially get set up on. So I'm just gonna go right out into my Arcanine and go for the Max Flare, and that should get us the win here. He does go for the Swords Dance here, which is a good play. He has to play for the choke. If I stayed in with Azumarill a lot, that could have been the opportunity that he was looking for. Not gonna do that though. I'm just gonna go for the Max Flare. And even if it's a really bulky Zacian, which might live, which is like really insane if you think about it, but even if he does, then 2 rounds of Rocky Helmet will finish him off, and odds are even if he's that bulky, he probably doesn't have the damage to 2-hit KO me. And yeah, with the Sacred Sword, that's definitely not going to be enough damage to 2-hit KO me. And my Max Flare finishes him off. Good game. So I definitely brought the right 2 Pokemon here for sure, the Arcanine and the Azumarill putting in a lot of work here, even without the Calyrex into play. My opponent here has a pretty fun ghost team. He has 4 ghost types, and he has 2 dark types. Maybe it's Water Shifu, but who knows. Pretty interesting team here. I definitely want to bring my Mimikyu, which is going to have a type event advantage against basically everything on his team. And he is not going to have enough burst damage on turn 1 to actually break through the Hippowdon. So I'm just going to leave that and Sword Stance up with the Mimikyu. And just in case if it's the Water Urshifu, Azumarill will do well against that. It's going to pick off Calyrex, be able to take on hits from just about most things on his team, so I definitely want to bring my Azumarill here as well. He leads with Urshifu. Let's see, he is the dark one, and that means that I am gonna be able to take a hit, any hit from this Urshifu, and I will get up the Yawn. And if he is not able to 2-hit KO me, I'll also be able to get up the Stealth Rock as well. So the matchup is quite favorable. I wouldn't say it's quite favorable, but it's a good, decent matchup for me to play into. And he reveals that he is Bandit for sure. Otherwise, it would never even come close to 2-hit KOing. And unless he got the max roll there, the odds are very good that he is also Adamant Urshifu, which has its big draw is definitely the ability to 2-hit KO Hippowdon lead just like this. And I am gonna go down without being able to set up my Stealth Rock, but that is okay. My Sandstorm is going to chip down on the opposing Urshifu. Though Urshifu is not the Sash user, whatever Sash user that's in the back will get affected by the Sandstorm, so not the worst of the positions here, and I'm gonna get a very free Sword Stance up. And he reveals that he is indeed Adamant Urshifu, as it is slower than my Mimikyu. And here I will just go for the Play Rough here. The big reason for me just play roughing as opposed to going for a max Starfall is that I need to Shadow Sneak in order to actually beat the Calyrex and the Dragapult 1v1. So if he misses and gets the turn 1 Wake, I mean, like, so be it. I'm not gonna play too scared around those potential possibilities though, because the draw of I guess around like of 96% of the time, I'm going to get a lot out of just going for the Play Rough. And I'm just going to go for the Shadow Sneak. If he doesn't Dynamax here, that will KO the Dragapult for sure. If he does, then he'll probably lose the Dynamax, and I will get to 2-hit KO him still, probably. Unless he has the throwback Steel Spike, which used to be a thing on Dragapult, just so that it has a comfier matchup against this Mimikyu. But with the Life Orb, this should be doing a ton, as indeed it does. It does way over 50%. Honestly, might be over 60%, especially with the Sandstorm chip. So even if he were to be, say, Steel Spike, I'm guessing that the 2 sneaks plus the Aqua Jet probably picked him off. He doesn't have to bolt to survive all that, and it didn't even carry it. And this should be enough to take him out. And I guess let's see what he has in the back. If he has the Calyrex, then he's just gonna lose to the Shadow Sneak plus Azumarill for sure. So what else could be threatening? I would definitely say the Aegislash could be the potential way out for him if it's weakness policy. But he does reveal the Calyrex as his final Pokemon. and that means that Mimikyu is going to clinch the game with the Shadow Sneak. And I won't even have to Dynamax. So he does reveal the Focus Sash, so that's why he couldn't come into the Calyrex earlier, because the Sandstorm was still active. But that means that my Mimikyu is going to bring him down to Sash, and the Azumarill is going to pick off the final bit of HP. And he might forfeit here, as all Azus do carry Aqua Jet, so he knows he's lost. And I've built a couple of new teams here, and I'll be happy to showcase them in the next videos. Anyways, thank you guys all for watching. Bye.